They have their first opportunity. Like I said, if they split these games, there's a very real opportunity for Penn State to get into the national championship last year. Don't think about it. Remember last year, Ohio State was 11-1 in the CFP. What is up, everybody? It is Jake with Master of Football back at it again. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to be up to date on everything college football, pro football, Madden, EA college football, NFL draft, anything related to American football, hit that red subscribe button. You will not be disappointed. Also the like button too. And follow on Twitter/X. That fam is growing. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, we are heading into another big weekend of college football. Will it hold up in the same way that last weekend did? My Boise State Broncos lost on a Hail Mary. We also saw the fact that Oregon and Washington had one of the best games we've ever seen. This next week, there's not as many high-profile matchups. There is obviously Tennessee versus Alabama. I am interested in watching that game a little bit there. But the big noon kickoff, we kick off this weekend, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, noon on the East Coast, with a game in Columbus, Ohio that has a lot of implications. I think that this game is multiple in a lot of different ways here. For some reason, Ryan Day is on the hot seat. He's been 51-6 in his last 57 games. He's one of the fastest coaches to 50 wins. The fastest being Chris Peterson, my boy, Boise State. But we see the fact that, again, no national championships in that time. That is the standard that has been set for Ohio State going forward. For Penn State, it's a little bit different of a situation here. I think that Penn State last season really showed what this team is capable of, but that they have their own wall that they have to break through to get to that next level. So looking at their schedule here, it's very simple here. Okay, we got to win at Purdue. That game was crazy there. That was the guy who had the Purdue player had the pick six, and then he threw up everywhere. It was crazy. Ohio at Auburn. Okay, they got to win against number 8 Utah in their bowl game. They beat, Maryland, Indiana, Rutgers, Michigan State. They beat Northwestern. They beat a ton of teams. Minnesota. There's 2 big red L's there. One of them, they're at Michigan, number 5 Michigan. They went into the big house there and lost 41-17. And then 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, they played Ohio State, and they lost 44-31. You can see the definite discrepancy between these teams because in that Michigan game, Penn State was headed into that game. They were one of the best rushing defenses in the country. And Michigan, and remember here, because of recruiting, it's not like the NFL where stats and ranks don't mean as much, in college because there's such a difference in the quality of players. So much so that Michigan ran for 400 yards against one of the best rush defenses in college football. Like I said, I think that Penn State has beaten Michigan before. This Michigan team, this Michigan cohort of guys, and Ohio State as well, it seems like they're at a little bit of a wall there. That wall is very similar to another program's wall in the SEC. Back in August, I said this. I really felt like there was one big hurdle for Georgia to get over, and for them it was the Alabama Crimson Tide.
There's so many times that these two teams would play each other, and Georgia felt like they were close. They felt like they were close, and then they ultimately would lose. Alabama comes into this game, like I said, Bryce Young, a 5'10" quarterback, against the 7 future first-round picks on their defense, 421 passing, 3 touchdowns, ultimately a win.
Now, obviously, this Penn State team does not have 7 first-round picks like Georgia does, but also Ohio State does not have Bryce Young on their sideline. But you understand the analogy there. I was basically saying that this Penn State team feels like they're almost there to that next level, but they just can't get past that the quality layer of this version of Ohio State and this version of Michigan. They've beaten Michigan before in the last couple of years. They've beaten Ohio State in the last couple of years. They have not beaten both since 2008. And that was when Michigan was down and Ohio State was kind of doing their thing too. But this is an opportunity for them to come through against one of the best teams in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes, who as of late have kind of been rolling. So checking this game out, it's going to be 57 degrees in Columbus, Ohio. Ohio State is favored by 4.5. Over-under was 45.5. I'm actually expecting a pretty defensive game based on some things that after doing some research here. We are seeing, according to ESPN Analytics, the matchup predicted there says 63.5 to 36.5, basically 2-1. If we flip a coin, more than likely it is going to go Ohio State's way. However, it's really interesting to see that there's a lot of conversation about Penn State, the fact that this team, how good they are right now, is actually kind of a young, inexperienced team, but still playing at such a high level. They're going to need it because Ohio State looks like they're getting back many of their desired players they want. So Adam Rittenberg just the other day says Ryan Day, he's hopefully going to have Ohio State getting players back this week. He mentions here the fact that he's hopeful to get several players back to return for this week's showdown with number 7, Penn State, including star wide receivers Emeka Egbuka, running back Travion Henderson, and Denzel Burke. Day was asked Tuesday about the status of Egbuka, Henderson, and Mayan Williams. He didn't go into specific with each situation, but he said hopefully we'll have all those guys back for Saturday. So again, I don't know if it's doubtful where it's 25% chance, probable where it's 75, or questionable where it's 50. I'm not 100% sure there, but he is saying that he's like, they're probably going to be back. We're hopefully going to get them back. He later added the same applies for Burke, a starting cornerback who left last week's game against Purdue in the third quarter and did not return. Emeka Egbuka, a second-team All-Big Ten wide receiver in 2022, who ranked third in the league in receptions, did not travel to Purdue after sustaining a lower leg injury October 7th against Maryland. Henderson, Ohio State's running back, went through some warm-ups against Purdue but did not play. Day said that Henderson, who battled injuries for much of last season, 2022, has been held out as a precaution. Ohio State was also without Williams at running back, and Chip Trayanum, who started against the Boilermakers, left the game in the first quarter after a big, what sounds like they're just a walking wounded at running back right now. That being said, even with all of those injuries, Ohio State is still favored. They still are the more veteran team across the board. That doesn't mean that Penn State is without a lot of young talent. They've got sophomores galore on this team. They are a bunch of babies out there, but still one of the best teams in the country. You start off here with your boy Drew Allar, the 6'5", 243. He looks like an absolute baby in this picture right here. But again, 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a 75 QBR, 26 in the country. So big, tall, strong quarterback, strong arm quarterback. He's solid there. Then you go to Katron Allen, one of the top running backs on the team, 375 and 3 touchdowns. He's not the only sophomore running back on the team. He's 5'11", 221. And Nicholas Singleton, another sophomore running back, 6 feet, 224, 89 carries, 362, and 6 touchdowns. So you see the fact, 2 sophomore running backs. We got a sophomore quarterback. We also have a couple more playmakers who are sophomores and a couple juniors too. Now, Keandre Lambert-Smith is a junior, so he's a little bit more of a veteran player. He understands, he's like, I've done this a couple years. I kind of get this. 400 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. He is the leading receiver on this team. So think about that. We got a sophomore quarterback, 2 leading running backs are sophomores, and then a leading receiver is a junior. Defense also has plenty of sophomore talent as well. We start off here with Dominic DeLuca, who's 6'1", 213. He's a linebacker, but he's kind of like a safety hybrid linebacker. Again, 6'1", 213 is not exactly the biggest hitter in the game, but 9 tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, 1 pick. He is a big player on that defense. We also have sophomore linebacker Kobe King. Remember here, 12 tackles, 1 sack. He's solid, 6'1", 246, like I said, sophomore linebacker, plenty of talent there. And then your boy Abdul Carter as well. And Abdul Carter, a sophomore linebacker, you can tell he's a freakazoid. Number 11, you can only be good at Penn State if you wear number 11. That's the rule there. 6'3", 250 from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 8 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 interception. They are loaded with sophomore talent, including junior talent too. But I'm basically saying they're going to have a issue with the fact that they are a little young, heading into the horseshoe against Ohio State. But again, like I said before, I read a couple articles here. It looks like we're heading into a pretty defensive game. So here we are on Action Sports Network. And again, the thing I like about this is they're going to break down some of the, there's so many stats to go across. When you have 130 FBS teams, there's a lot of stats to kind of work your way through there. So right now the spread was 4.5 for Ohio State. It has gone down to 4. The over-under is about 47. So if we're thinking about that, that means 24-24 would be over. We're thinking it's going to be a low-scoring game. One thing it says right here is that right there's a couple of running backs that are injured, and they talk about that. They also mentioned the fact that this means that all of the pressure is going to be on Kyle McCord to throw all over the best secondary in college football. Remember that they are really good. They've got a corner out there for Penn State who's going to be a first-round pick. It says McCord has been impressive all season, averaging 9.5 yards per attempt while ranking 14th in EPA, but he will be potentially without one of his biggest weapons, Emeka Egbuka, who missed the last game against Purdue. Remember here, he's hopefully going to get him back. We don't know at this point. But again, we see the fact that, like I said, either way, we've got Ohio State's, the rating here was that Ohio State and Penn State ranked first and second in the country defensively in yards per allowed, respectively, and gave up a combined 7 points to Purdue and UMass last week. Shutout against UMass, and then Purdue had 7 points themselves. So I don't think anybody this year expected this was going to be the year that Penn State was going to win the national championship with all these new guys, sophomore running backs, junior receivers, sophomore quarterbacks, and so on. However, here they are with their opportunity. Like I said last season, 11-2, win against Utah, one of the better teams, win at Auburn. They clearly showed the fact that they are a highly talented team. There's this weird thing they got to get through. In the same way that Georgia had to break through the Alabama threshold to get to that national championship level, Ohio State and Michigan give this Penn State team problems. And again, I know that it's this iteration of them. They've beaten them before, have not beaten both since 2008. They have their first opportunity. Like I said, if they split these games, there's a very real opportunity for Penn State to get into the national championship last year. Don't think about it. Remember last year, Ohio State was 11-1 in the CFP. All right, guys, what do you think? I'm really excited to see what Penn State can do. I will also make sure that we're clear about this. I bet against Ohio State a couple times this season, and they have torched me. I thought that they struggled a little bit early on in the year. It looks like they're really hitting their stride. They're gonna need it though, because this is gonna be a tough game. But you guys get in the comments and let me know what you think about this whole situation. Remember, also please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. I appreciate it. So for me, guys, I'll see you guys later. I am out.